Hello students, welcome to the class of Utilization to Electric Power. This is your elective subject. So those who have chosen this subject as your elective one, welcome to this class. In this particular subject, we are going to deal with 4 different categories of electrical engineering, right? In utilization of electric power, we are going to study about illumination engineering, about traction system, heating, electric heating, the application of electric heating in industry, and electric welding. So 4 different kinds of things we can have in this utilization of electric power subject. So once again, welcome you all. Hope we all are going to have a beautiful session in this semester. Welcome to your new semester also. So let us start this. Okay. So according to your syllabus, this is your first module, electric traction. Now, what is electric traction? The name traction you have studied in different kinds, in different types of subjects earlier. Traction, the devices that run on a track can be defined as traction, and those that get supply from electric energy is defined as electric traction. Now, this is the basic of electric traction. So within this module, we are going to study about requirement of an ideal traction system. Before we are going to set and we are going to establish any traction system, what are the requirements an ideal traction system should have? That we are going to study here. Supply system for electric traction. We maybe you all of you know that in locomotive system in our Indian Railway, we are getting 25 kilovolt AC system, right? Supply from 25 kilovolt AC system. But in our tramway, in our metro, we are getting DC supply. So what are the different types of supply system for electric traction that we also know here? Train movement, very important, very interesting part of electric traction, and it's the most important part in terms of your exam. So train movement, within train movement you are going to study about speed time curve, simplified speed time curve, average speed and scheduled speed. Next will be mechanism of train movement. Within that, energy consumption, tractive effort during acceleration, tractive effort on a gradient, tractive effort for resistance, power and energy output for the driving axles, factors affecting specific energy consumption, and coefficient of addition. So these all are your within module 1 according to your syllabus. Now in our classes, in our upcoming classes, we will design all these modules according to our lectures. Okay. Those that the part that contains maximum number of numerical problem, we will separate that from the other module. The theory part we will cover separately. So according to need of our lectures, we will separate our modules. So these are the syllabus that is mentioned. Now what is the course outcome? After studying of utilization of electric power, what are the outcomes that you should have? These are formulate and then analyze the working of traction motor and their control using mathematical model under loaded and unloaded conditions. Understand and explain the principle of operation and performance of traction motor. Analyze the response of DC motor, induction motor and transformer, and last but not least, troubleshoot the operation of DC motor, induction motor and transformer. So these are the course outcome that you should all have after completion of utilization of electric power. Now, according to the syllabus, the first thing that we should know, what are the requirements of an ideal electric traction system. Now, what are the requirements of an electric traction system? Whenever the term electric come into our mind, the thing we must be aware that electrical system is always much more cleaner than any other system. In electrical system, using electrical energy, since we are supplying motors, so speed controls are easier in electrical system. The starting and braking of the motors will be easier. So let us see what are the points that should be the requirement of an ideal electric traction system. The locomotive should be self-contained and able to run on any route. Braking should be such that minimum wear is caused on the brake shoes. If possible, the braking energy should be regenerated and returned to the supply. So this brake shoes is the mechanical part, right? So for an ideal traction system, the mechanical involvement should be much lesser, so that we can reduce frictional loss, we can reduce winding losses. So that can be done through electric traction system. So that is first requirement. And in electric supply system only, we are having regenerative braking. So the braking energy should be regenerated and returned to the supply. Yes, the same thing is also can be done in electric traction system. Speed control should be easy. The wear on the track should be minimum. The starting tractive effort should be high so as to have rapid acceleration. It should be pollution free. There should be no interference to the communication lines running along the lines. Low initial and maintenance cost. So these are all the requirements of an ideal traction system. Now, what are the advantages of electric traction system? Why should we opt for electric traction system? Coefficient of addition is better. What is coefficient of addition? We will study later in our train movement part, mechanism of train movement part. Okay. So just keep in mind, for advantages of what are the advantages of electric traction, that coefficient of addition is better. Cheapest method of traction, less vibration, less maintenance cost, rapid acceleration and braking, high starting torque. It has great passenger carrying capacity at higher speed, free from smoke and few gases, so used for underground and tubular railways. So these all are the advantages of electric traction system. Okay. Now, as I have already told you that electric traction system can have different types of supply system, different types of voltages, different types of rated voltage that an electric traction system can have. So what are the system of track electrification? What are the different types? Firstly, this total track electrification can be categorized between DC and AC system. Now within AC system, we are having three-phase AC system, single-phase standard frequency system, that means single-phase 50 Hz system, single-phase low-frequency system, that means single-phase 25 2/3 Hertz frequency system, 16 whole 2/3 frequency system, single phase to three phase system. This particular system is also known as Carnot system. Now, what are the example of DC system? 600 volt DC is given to tramway and trolley buses. Okay. Now, track system, again this particular AC system and DC system can be classified as follows. So one may be AC three phase 3.7 kilovolt system. This particular system is not used in India. AC single phase 15 by 16 kilovolt and 161 to 25 Hertz. AC single phase 20 to 25 kilovolt 50 to 60 hertz system. This particular system is being used in India. And for DC, DC 600 volt, DC 1200 volt, DC 1.5 kilovolt, and DC 3 kilovolt. These are the total types of electrification system of electric traction that can be used and that are being used worldwide. Now in our India, for AC single phase AC locomotive like in Indian Railway, AC single phase 20 to 25 kilovolt 50 to 60 hertz is being used. For metro, it's DC 600 volt, and for tramline and trolley buses, it's again DC 600. So these are the system that are being used in India. Now, advantages of 25 kilovolt 50 hertz AC supply system. The first question for your semester that comes every year from this chapter. It's a very, very important question. It will come out of a marks of 7 or 8 marks. So this particular question is very, very important, my dear students. So I'm telling you, this is the first question that you should keep a bookmark, that what are the advantages of 25 kilovolt 50 hertz AC supply system. So let us see. Light overhead catenary. As the system voltage is high, the line current for a given traction demand is very less. This will result in cross-section of overhead conductor is reduced. That means what? We are using a very high voltage 25 kilovolt, that will reduce the demand of line current, and as a result we can reduce the cross section of the conductor. As the size of the conductor is reduced, line, conductor, support and foundation are also light, and the high voltage needs higher insulation of overhead equipment. This will be compensated by the reduction in the size of conductor. Since we are using a high voltage, we are in need of high insulation, right? High insulation equipment, but at the same time we are using lightweight. So this higher insulation and the lightweight, both these balance each other. So these are the advantages for light overhead catenary. What are these? First is due to the using of very high voltage, current is very much lower, and the lesser amount of current will lower the requirement of conductor, the requirement of cross section of conductor. Since the cross section of conductor is lesser, the line support will be reduced, and the balancing between requirement of high insulating equipment and the line conductor will balance each other. Okay. Now less number of substations. As the line current is less in the 25 kilovolt supply system, this will result in less voltage drop and improves voltage regulation of the line, which makes larger spacing between substations. So we can have a reduced number of substations if we use large voltage, if we use high voltage. The substation, there is a particular cost for setting up a substation, right? So if the number of substation will be reduced, the overall establishment cost, installation cost will be reduced. The distance between two substations due to 25 kilovolt is approximately 50 to 80 kilometer, as against 5 to 15 kilometer for 1500 volt DC and 15 to 30 kilometer for 3000 volt DC system. So if we were using 1500 volt DC system, we have to establish substation within 5 to 15 kilometers, or in case of 3000 volt DC system, we had to use substation within 15 to 30 kilometers. But in 25 kilovolt supply system, we can have our substation within 50 to 80 kilometer range. As the number of substation is reduced, the capital cost, as I have already told you, of electrification is also reduced. Next, flexibility for location of substation. The substation can be located near the high voltage grid, which is close to main railway track. Since the substation can have a wide range of distances, we can choose more accordingly the location of the substation. These substations are fed from high voltage grid, which results in saving in cost of special transmission line for substation. Again, there is a savings in cost. Next, low cost of installation. The cost of fixed installation for 25 AC system is very much lesser than compared to DC system. Coefficient of addition. The DC locomotive has coefficient of addition about 27% as compared to rectifier locomotive, which is closely 45%. This will result in lighter AC locomotive that can take the same load as heavier straight DC locomotive. Higher starting efficiency. As the AC locomotive has higher starting efficiency as compared to straight DC locomotive, the supply voltage at starting in the DC locomotive is reduced by means of ohmic resistor, but it is changed by using tap changer in AC locomotives. So these are all the advantages of 25 kilovolt AC system for electric traction. So I'm again telling you that this particular portion will be very important for your semester part. So keep this part with a bookmark or copy it in your, just write down in your copy so that you can have this answer ready whenever you are going to answer in your exam. Now, the most important part, the most interesting part of electric traction system. These are speed time curve. The diagram here we can have here is the typical speed time curve. That means these are generalized speed time curve for any electric traction system. Now this particular speed time curve, here in x-axis we are having time and in y-axis we are having speed, and the area between the curve is representing the distance that a traction and electric locomotive covers totally. Okay, so this total typical speed time curve can be divided into 5 particular parts. What are these 5 parts? First one is rheostatic acceleration. Next is acceleration on speed time curve, that is also called as normal acceleration period. Third part is free running. Fourth is posting, and the last one is braking. Now, what are these particular parts? What are the changes within electric locomotive that occurs during this time span? Now come to first part, rheostatic acceleration. This part is also known as notching. Okay. Now what is rheostatic acceleration? The instant the locomotive gets started up to the instant t1, this particular, the point A, up to point A, this particular part is rheostatic acceleration. Now during this acceleration, when the supply is given to the motor gets accelerated through some notching, right? Through some resistors. The supply is not directly fed to the motor; it's fed with through some starter, and the resistors that are connected in the starter. What happened? The supply handle, it gets notched over that particular resistor. So this particular acceleration is being generated with rheostatic process, and so the instant 0 to t1, this is known as rheostatic acceleration. After that, point A to point B, time t1 to time t2, it is the acceleration period. Here in this period, the locomotive gets its speed higher, and in this period it gets accelerated and reaches its maximum speed. From B to point C, point B to point C, time T2 to time T3, this is a free running period. Here the locomotive has already attained its maximum speed and it's constantly running in that particular speed. Now when it's come to stop, what happens? The first part is coasting. Here the braking is first applied, electric braking is first applied, okay? And from in C to D, electric braking is applied, the speed starts to decreases and it takes time from T3 to T4. So this part is known as coasting. In coasting period, keep in mind here electric braking is applied. And the last part but not the least, from D to E, this is braking. In this part, the supply to the motor is cut down. The motor gets rotated due to the inertia, due to its inertia only. And here in this portion, mechanical braking is applied to the motor within the time T4 to T5. So this is total typical speed time curve. Here in x-axis, time is being denoted. In y-axis, speed is denoted. The area under the curve denotes the total distance traveled by the locomotive. This total speed time curve is being divided into 5 parts: rheostatic acceleration or notching, acceleration, normal acceleration, free running, coasting, and braking. So these are the total speed time curve that any locomotive should have. Now come to simplified speed time curve. Now why we need to simplify this, right? Suppose we are having 2 trains from our station Howrah. One is traveling to Delhi, another one is traveling to Burdwan. So is their total journey, or is their total acceleration period, is their total coasting period, braking period, whatever it may be, free running period of course, will that be same for both of them? No. Why? Because the distance is not same for both of them. Some one type of locomotive are having are running within the cities, and other types of locomotives are running in suburban areas or in rural areas where the distances are very larger. So according to the distances a locomotive travels, the speed time curve can be simplified. Now here in figure A, you can see that this speed time curve is trapezoidal speed time curve. In this type of locomotive, what is happening that, so again I'm repeating, this figure A, it's known as trapezoidal speed time curve, and this figure B, it's known as quadrilateral speed time curve. And these both type of simplified speed time curve has been designed according to the distance a locomotive is traveling. Suppose that I've already told you, a train is starting from Howrah and it's traveling to Delhi, whether another train is starting from Howrah and traveling to Bandel or traveling to Burdwan, these both traverse system will be different, and according to the simplified speed time curve we can calculate their different types of acceleration, different types of quantities that are related with this curve. Okay, so in trapezoidal speed time curve we are having free running portion. So these are mainly for high distance, larger distances in for rural areas where the train is supposed to travel a long distance, and in for quadrilateral speed time curve for figure B, these are in urban system where there is a no scope for any locomotive to have free running period. Now, three different types of speed a locomotive is having. We will be known to these three different types of speed. These are, one is crest speed. What is crest speed? It is the maximum speed attained by a train during the run. Now let me go to the previous slide. The maximum speed means here in this free running period, the train is attaining the maximum speed, that is Vm. Here the train is attaining the maximum speed, that is V1. So these are the crest speed. Average speed is the distance between stops and actual time of run divided by actual time of run. And schedule speed is again very important in terms of your exam. Schedule speed, this is distance between stop divided by actual time of run plus stop time. Stop time means the time a locomotive involves during in station between two stops. Whenever the locomotive gets stopped, that particular time is also calculated in schedule speed. Okay, so these are the three different types of speed: crest speed, average speed, and schedule speed a locomotive is having. Very important again, factors affecting schedule speed. What are the factors that are going to affect schedule speed? These are acceleration and braking retardation, number one. Number two, maximum or crest speed. And the third one is duration of stop. Now again, let me go to the last slide. Schedule speed is distance between stops divided by actual time of run plus stop time. Now what the first part, it's acceleration and braking retardation. That means what is the acceleration, what is the retardation of the particular locomotive. Suppose for a particular locomotive, acceleration is high, right? So it will reduce the actual time of run. So whenever acceleration is higher for any locomotive, that will reduce the actual run time, and whenever actual run time will be reduced, schedule speed will get increased. Similarly, for braking retardation, if the braking time is larger, then actual time of run will actual time of in case of acceleration, if acceleration is higher, actual time of run will be reduced and schedule speed will be higher. But in case of braking, if braking is higher, actual time of run will be higher and schedule speed will be reduced. Effect of maximum speed. If maximum speed is higher, if Vm is higher, so then actual time of run will be higher, right? If maximum speed is higher, actual time of run will be lesser. We can reach the same distance with very low time, and that will increase the schedule speed. And last but not the least, duration of stop. This is the stop time. So if duration of stop gets increased, schedule speed will be reduced. If duration of stop gets decreased, schedule speed will be increased. So these are the three factors: acceleration and braking retardation, distance between duration of stop between two distances, and effect of maximum speed. So these are the factors that are going to affect schedule speed of any locomotive. Now here is an example. This is just an example, numerical, that we are having solved. We are going to have a different video lecture on this numerical problem, because from fraction, a huge part of numerical will come in your exam. We have to solve simplified curve, we have to solve quadrilateral curve, we have to solve for schedule speeds. So these are the different types of numericals that we are going to solve. In that we will solve in our different slide. Here just an example I'm sharing with you. The example is, the problem is, find the schedule speed. You are being asked to find the schedule speed of an electric train for a run of 1.5 kilometer. So that the total distance is 1.5 if the ratio of its maximum to average speed is 1.25. It has a braking retardation of 3.6 km per hour per second, acceleration of 1.8 km per hour per second, and stop time of 21 seconds. Assume trapezoidal speedband curve. So this type of problem, this type of numerical you have to solve in your exam. This is a very easy one. When I will solve this, when I will discuss this in my next video, you can easily solve this type of questions. So students, these are all the basics of electric traction. You are going to have, I believe, an idea on the basics of electric traction, new ideas, some new terms that you are going to have in this video. So go through this video, and as a reference book, you can have utilization of electric power by J.B. Gupta, by Rajput, so by G.C. Garg also, electric power, utilization of electric power. So these three books you can refer by J.B. Gupta, by Rajput, or by G.C. Garg. And in this video, apart from the last numerical, if you find any difficulties, you can share that in the comment section, and I will definitely try to solve that particular doubts. And about the last numerical, as I have told you earlier, that we are going to have different video lecture, a whole video lecture on different types of numerical problem of electric traction. So thank you once again for watching this video. Hope you will like this video and it will help you in your exam. So thank you.